Why do we get resentful? Obviously, we get resentful because people sin against us. That's a righteous reason for resentment. But sometimes we get resentful because of unrighteous reasons. A righteous reason, maybe someone broke a promise, they sinned against us. You said you were going to do this. Just like one of the reasons we get angry is because someone breaks a promise, we can get resentful for the same reasons. But over time, if they keep on breaking the promise over and over again, then the resentment builds. Maybe it was a broken confidence. It could have been a personal rejection. That was the story of Leonard Holt. He got rejected over and over and over again, and that's why he became resentful. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe it was a false accusation, and they keep on saying false things about you, and all of a sudden you become resentful at humanity. Sometimes one of the unrighteous reasons why we get resentful is because of unspoken or unrealistic expectations. I know that they're all perfect marriages in the room here today, so this obviously doesn't apply to anyone here, but sometimes in marriage you can get resentful, very resentful, because you have this unspoken expectation, and your spouse, bless his heart, her heart, he just doesn't know. And so he keeps on failing to meet the expectation, and you keep on getting angry, and anger multiplied over time becomes resentment, and all of a sudden you're resentful because of an unspoken expectation. Maybe it's unrealistic. You know, you're expecting him to do this, or you're expecting her to do this, and they're just an impossible situation. They can't possibly do what you're asking them to do, and you become resentful. Well, that's ungodly resentment, just like there's ungodly anger. Maybe it wasn't unrealistic expectations. Maybe it was an unwelcome confrontation, an unwelcome rebuke. You see this in the scriptures all the time. In fact, when we talked about getting freedom over guilt, you remember that Nathan, the prophet Nathan, came to David, King David, and he said, "You're the man. You have committed adultery with Bathsheba." Nathan got all up in David's grill. And David could have gotten resentful, but he didn't. He repented. He confessed his sin. He turned from his sin. But there are many times when people come to our lives and they get all up in our grill, and instead of confessing and repenting, we get resentful. And instead of the conversation being about our sin, the conversation shifts to their tone of voice or their mood, and we get resentful because of an unwelcome rebuke. You don't know me. You've got no right to say that. And we get resentful. James, the brother of Jesus, he talks about resentment. He says that sometimes we get resentful when we have bitter envy. And it would take somebody like James, the brother of Jesus, to talk about bitter envy, because James was the brother of Jesus. And so if anyone was going to get envious, if anyone was going to get jealous of his brother, it would probably be James. So what James is saying is there can be a time in your life where you're jealous of what another person has. So if you're the brother of Jesus, you're probably jealous that Jesus is sinless. And if mom was going to have a favorite, it would probably be Jesus. And so James is saying bitter envy is a form of resentment that is a Christian vice, so it's a vice in the Christian life, and it will destroy you. So how does this play out? Maybe you have friends, you finally get a girlfriend. I mean, I don't mean it that way, but maybe you finally get married, and someone, instead of rejoicing with you and saying, "Oh, I'm so glad that you got married," they're going, How? Why? Why would you get married and not me? I've been waiting for years. I've been dating this guy for 3 years. I was hoping he was going to ask the question, and you've been dating him for 2 weeks? Really? Married? Or maybe, you're a parent, and one of your friends, their kids are living for the Lord, and they're just so precious and wonderful, and your kids are, getting out of jail, and, and you're going, "Why aren't my kids like their kids?" And you get resentful. And then they talk about their kids, how wonderful their kids are, and you're like, and you're just resentful. Or you got into college. I finally got into college that I wanted to get into. And instead of rejoicing with you, the other person gets mad. It's resentment. It's bitter envy. And it's an unrighteous resentment. And so if we're here this morning and that's the kind of resentment that we have, that's the antidote for getting out of that prison isn't forgiveness. The antidote of getting out of that prison of resentment is repentance.